The story begins with Arata, who is your average middle-aged Joe, who spends his time overworking at a Japanese black company. One night, he collapses on his bed after work and opens his eyes in the afterlife, where God tells him that he died from overworking too much. Despite that, he was supposed to live for a few more years, but due to a divine screw-up, he ended up here before his time, so to make it up to him, God tells him to make a wish. Arata thinks about it for a moment and says that he wants to live on an island without any humans and wants a strong body that doesn't get injured or sick. The god fulfills his wish and tips him with a skill that lets him copy any magic after seeing it just once, and then sends him off to another world to live his new life. With that, Arata opens his eyes on an island in a 20-year young body and thinks about what just happened. But then stops worrying and resolves to do his best to live a peaceful life, this time, and heads into the forest behind him. While making his way through it, he realizes that his body feels much lighter and he can move way better than he ever could in his previous life. Suddenly, a rabbit jumps out of a bush and gets in front of Arata. Looking at its cute eyes, Arata feels bad for needing to hunt it for dinner, but before he can catch it, the rabbit tackles him like a bull as if it was supposed to do some damage. Seeing that its attack didn't do anything to Arata, the rabbit tries to get away from him, but Arata punches it mid-air while trying to catch it and ends up sending it straight into a tree like a racing gun. Being the goofball he is, Arata wonders why the rabbit jumped and hit its head into the tree, but figures that it must be normal in this world. After that, he bends down to grab the unconscious rabbit, but suddenly a massive wolf appears behind him ready to steal his prey. Arata decides to toss the rabbit as bait and runs away as fast as he can until he sees no one behind. Eventually, he stops by a tree to catch his breath and thinks just how close he came to dying once again and wonders if this is what living alone really means. After that, Arata looks back at the forest and thinks that it's getting dark and decides to look for food and water the next day. With that, he walks back to the rocky shore and calls it a day while appreciating his new body and its stamina. At the same time, he wonders if he will really be able to survive on this island all alone, but then he looks up at the night sky, and the breathtaking scene firms his resolve, and he thinks that he would be fine after all if he can see this view every night. The next morning, he notices how his body didn't feel sore despite sleeping on the rocks, and then decides to explore the beach for some food before going back into the dangerous forest. While walking along the shore, something catches his eye, and he freezes in his place. He takes a careful look and realizes that it's a girl lying unconscious on the beach and starts running towards her, wondering where she came from. Seeing there's no time to waste, he checks if she is still breathing and notices that her breath is fading away slowly. With no other option, Bro decides to give her CPR like in the movies. Clenching his fists, he readies himself to give it a try and apologizes to the girl with a promise that she can yell at him later. He breathes into her mouth and starts giving her chest compressions, and after a few tries, she coughs up some water and starts breathing again. He rolls back onto the sand feeling relieved before noticing that her skin tone is returning to normal. He admires her beautiful face and smiles, but then he realizes that there shouldn't be anyone else on this island. Even so, he can't just leave her like this, so he starts undressing her carefully and tries hard not to look at her. But Bro instantly starts blushing as he notices her red underwear matches her hair, and immediately turns his face away, scolding himself for even looking. Once he manages to get her into dry clothes, he hangs the wet ones on a rope, and after looking at them closely, he says that now it really feels like he has stepped right into a fantasy world, because these clothes look like something right out of an RPG. Just then, the girl wakes up and asks Arata who he was. Arata gets close to her and introduces himself before telling her that he found her stranded on the beach, so he saved her life. She nods and tries to sit up, to which Arata shows concern, wondering if she should really be moving. The girl notices her new clothes, which makes Arata flustered, and he quickly explains that her clothes were soaked, so he had to change them. Hearing this, she blushes, and Arata scratches his head awkwardly, muttering that maybe he shouldn't have done that. The girl smiles and thanks Arata for saving her, which surprises him, but he smiles back, relieved that she's okay. She introduces herself as Rihanna Mistoral. Feeling curious, Arata asks why she was lying unconscious on the shore. Rihanna explains that she was assigned to travel to the farthest island under the king's orders, but a massive storm hit them and caused their ship to sink, nearly ending their lives. She then asks if Arata lives on the island, but Arata thinks that he can't tell her the truth and laughs awkwardly, saying that he somehow ended up here as well. Rihanna accepts his answer, since what matters is that he saved her. Arata thanks her, but she says she should be the one thanking him. He suggests taking a break before looking for food and water, and after a while, they head into the forest. Arata checks on her and notices she is tired, so suggests that they should take a break. Feeling exhausted, Rihanna notices how Arata doesn't seem tired and admires his amazing stamina. Arata says that he's surprised too, making her ask how he can be surprised with his own stamina. After that, Rihanna says that this island is weird and based on where her ship sank and how she ended up on this island. It shouldn't be that far off from the kingdom and wonders why the king doesn't know about it. Suddenly, Arata notices a pack of wolves coming towards them, and he realizes that these are the same ones from yesterday. He notices that they're getting ready to attack and quickly tells Rihanna to run, but she smirks and stands there, calling herself the strongest mage. Then she raises her hand and summons wind blades that cut through the wolves like it's nothing. Seeing this, Arata becomes surprised and asks if it was magic, while Rihanna smiles saying that that should do it. Just then, Arata spots a wolf that somehow managed to survive, sneaking up behind Rihanna. Just as the wolf jumps at her, Arata pushes Rihanna aside and blocks the attack with his arm, but our guy doesn't even flinch and stands there like it doesn't hurt at all. Even the poor mutt feels surprised at his reaction. Rihanna is horrified and turns around to check on him, but he casually says that maybe the wolf got weakened by her spell. After that, he punches it and sends it flying straight into a tree like a cannonball. This shocks both of them, and Arata's mind flashes back to yesterday when the same thing happened to the rabbit. Seeing this, Rihanna just stares at him with a worried look and asks who he really was. Just then, something makes Rihanna feel horrified, and she tells Arata to run away as fast as he can when she gives the signal. Hearing this, Arata turns around and goes pale when he sees a massive alpha wolf walking through the trees with enough force to shake the ground. The wolf grins at them while it prepares to attack, and even Arata can feel the bloodthirsty aura coming off of it. And he immediately realizes that there's no way they can win even if they fight it together. Rihanna prepares a strong spell and shoots the alpha wolf with a massive wind blade, but to her horror, it does nothing at all. It looks like she will turn into some premium dog food as the massive beast leaps straight at her with its jaws open, but Arata intervenes at the last moment and pushes her out of the way. He checks if she's okay, but Rihanna starts yelling at him and asks why he didn't run. She tells him to leave her behind and that she will slow the wolf down and buy him time to escape. Hearing this, Arata looks at her and says there's no way he's letting someone like her die here, and then he turns toward the wolf and says that he will be its opponent. Deep down, he knows that he can't win against the massive beast, but decides that he's got this second chance at life, and he's not going to live with the regret of letting someone die on his watch. And even if he loses, he's fine with being able to buy some time for Rihanna to escape. Rihanna begs him to stop, but Arata charges forward with his fist and slams it into the wolf with everything he has, and the impact sends the wolf flying into the sky faster than NASA's mission to space. Arata watches the massive wolf zoom out into the distance like Team Rocket and then looks down at his own fist, realizing that he's actually really strong and thinks that the god took the strong part really seriously when he wished for a strong body that doesn't get sick or hurt. After that, he turns to Rihanna to make an excuse for this absurd feat, but finds her still shocked and looking up at the sky like a statue. With that, Arata lets out a deep sigh and talks to God in his mind, saying that there should be a limit to everything. The gods accidentally killed Arata and reincarnated him into a new world with a body free from sickness and injury and the ability to copy any skill just by watching it. With these powers, he starts a quiet life on an uninhabited island, but he feels the abilities the god gave him are a bit like cheating. Meanwhile, Rihanna is still in shock because she has never seen a human take down a monster so easily and asks if that kind of power is normal for him. Arata, with his IQ of a soggy rice cracker, is not sure how to respond and hesitantly calls it magic, to which Rihanna smiles and says that even with her body strengthening technique, she could never do something like that and assumes Arata is hinting that his magic is stronger than a mage of 7 stars. Arata flinches at her words and quickly denies knowing anything about magic because he knows if he tells her the truth about his reincarnation and the powers from the gods, she'll probably think he's insane. Rihanna notices his thoughtful expression and apologizes for pressuring him and thanks him for saving her from the massive wolf. Hearing this, Arata thinks that if their roles were reversed, he'd probably be just as curious, but he doesn't want her to feel bad, so he reassures her that he's not mad at all. Rihanna puffs up her cheeks and asks if he sees her as a child, to which Arata quickly clarifies that's not what he meant and asks if being a 7-star mage is really that amazing. Hearing this, she glares at him, which makes Arata realize he said something dumb again. But Rihanna is shocked that he doesn't know about the 7-star mages and wonders how someone could be so isolated, to which Arata says he doesn't remember anything but Rihanna assumes it's just an excuse. Then she explains that the title of 7-star mage is given to the strongest mages in the country that are powerful enough to fight dragons, and they're admired all across the continent, and she's the youngest one in history. Arata praises her, to which Rihanna looks away shyly and thinks how even with full body magic, she couldn't do anything close to what he did. That's why she's curious about him, but Arata thinks that if he ever sets foot on the mainland, he'll probably be captured. Then Rihanna reminds him they need to find a water source, to which he agrees and tells her to follow him because he can hear the sound of water ahead. They go deeper into the forest and discover a wide stream, which impresses Rihanna that he was right. Arata kneels by the stream to check if the water is safe to drink, and after confirming it's fine, he offers Rihanna to drink it. But when he turns back, he finds her already chopping vegetables and making soup on a floating table she summoned. Arata calls out to her, to which she glares at him and asks what he wants, and our poor boy notices the focused look in her eyes that is like someone who's used to handling a knife. He asks where she got all the cooking supplies from, and she casually says she used storage magic, and Arata is confused by her answer until she explains that with her storage magic, she can store anything at any place and time, and her storage capacity is way bigger than most mages because she's a top-tier mage. Arata is impressed and watches her with a grin while she tells him to sit back and relax while she cooks. He nods and thinks how insanely cool that magic is and how he'd love to have one too. Just then, he sees a strange ripple appear in front of him, and he sticks his hand into it. His eyes widen when he notices his hand disappear in the ripple and wonders if he's using storage magic. He is confused if this is the power the god gave him, or if it is the cheat ability that lets him copy someone's skills just by seeing them. Rihanna turns and tells him to stop messing around and asks what he's doing. But Arata quickly pulls his hand back and shrugs like nothing happened. The portal vanishes and Rihanna doesn't seem to notice anything, which is lucky because he doesn't want to be in trouble again. Rihanna then asks him to hold the pot while she sets the table and walks over to the pile of broken stones and makes a full table out of nowhere with her magic. Arata can't help but be amazed again while she finishes preparing in just a few moments and lays everything out. Arata praises her once again, to which she explains that she is an S-rank adventurer, and she's clearly used to having meals in places like these. Then she serves him a steaming bowl of tomato soup, which makes his stomach growl. And bro thinks he might have lost his aura points, so he immediately apologizes, but Rihanna just grins, calling him a little kid. She gestures for him to sit down and Arata reaches for his chair. But then his brain starts glitching like an old CD as he sees a girl with fluffy ears and 9 tails sitting there and smiling. Arata stares at her with confusion when he realizes that she is a beast girl, and the girl leans forward to sniff the soup and then turns to Rihanna, calling her big sister. Then she starts eating and Arata watches in silence, not sure what to do in this situation. He looks at Rihanna and notices that she is shivering, so he leans in to ask if she is alright. But she insists she's fine, pretending everything's normal. He notices her eyes keep darting toward the girl and wonders if something is wrong with her. Meanwhile, the pot is already empty and Arata realizes if they don't stop her now, she'll eat everything. He glares at the girl and scolds her for stealing someone else's food, but Rihanna instantly tells him to go easy and let her eat as much as she wants. Arata disagrees and says that she might look like a child, but that's exactly why she needs to be taught properly. Rihanna gives in and tells him to let her go, to which Arata notices Rihanna's panic and gently puts the girl down and asks her name. The girl says her name is Luna, and Arata lowers himself to her level and calmly explains that they were about to eat, and she had just taken his portion. Luna's ears droop, and she apologizes softly, to which Arata pats her head, saying it's fine, and she smiles back at him, which melts his heart. Then he turns to Rihanna and asks if they have enough food, and she explains that she had prepared enough supplies to last half a year, assuming it would take that long to reach the faraway island. He apologizes and asks if she can cook something for Luna. It surprises Rihanna, but when she sees Luna's bright smile, she agrees. Luna doesn't believe it at first and asks again if it's really okay, to which Rihanna nods and Luna happily thanks her. In response, Rihanna smiles and says she'll get started, asking her to wait just a bit. While she heads off to cook, Arata leans back and thinks that he can't keep depending on Rihanna like this, or he's going to end up a background character. Luna interrupts his thoughts and asks for his name, to which he smiles and introduces himself. Then he remembers that he asked the god for an island that had everything he needed to live alone, so he decides to do things on his own to lower the burden on Rihanna. Arata thinks about it and realizes that this should be an island without humans and wonders if there are other beastmen like Luna living here too, so he asks Luna if she lives on this island. Luna nods in yes and says that she belongs to the tribe of divine beasts, and that there are many other tribes as well, like the demon tribe, the ancient dragon tribe, and the vampire tribe. Arata smiles as he understands that there are really no human tribes here. Meanwhile, Rihanna finishes cooking and brings the soup to the table, and they sit down and eat together. Once they finish eating, Rihanna uses magic to set up a large tent with ease and declares that this will be their base from now on. Once Luna goes inside and closes the tent behind her, Rihanna suggests they take some time to talk about what happened today. Once they sit inside the tent, Rihanna tells Arata again that she is one of the 7-star mages and explains that she was going to the faraway island to find an elixir that can make a person immortal. She mentions that she traveled here with a few knights, but she can judge from the current situation that they didn't survive. She further adds that if Luna is indeed telling the truth, then it is highly possible that this is the faraway island. Hearing this, Arata thinks about how all the tribes Luna mentioned sound serious and asks Rihanna if Luna is just an ordinary girl. However, Rihanna sternly tells him that he doesn't understand anything because he doesn't know magic, but she can sense that Luna has far more magical power than she does, which is why she was so scared earlier. Rihanna calls Luna a monster who would cause worldwide destruction if she appeared on the mainland. Hearing this, Arata says she doesn't seem to be like this, to which Rihanna agrees and says she just wants to warn Arata about how strong she is. Then Arata asks Rihanna about the other tribes, and she explains that the divine beasts and demons were once part of ancient mythology, and these creatures are at the level of folklore from the time before humans even existed. She mentions the dragons from ancient tales who destroyed entire cities and the vampires, which are considered made-up monsters no one believes in. Despite this, they've encountered a beastman like Luna, which proves that this island is far from ordinary, and they don't know what kind of monsters they might meet next. She warns Arata that until they explore the island fully, it's best for them to not run into these monsters because no matter how strong they are, they're still humans, so they must be careful. Arata then asks about the elixir, and Rihanna says they don't even know if it's really on this island, and that her entire expedition team is gone, and to handle the situation properly, they would need real knights. But Arata has already decided to stay on the island and doesn't want strangers to come. So he tells Rihanna that if they want to leave, they'll have to figure something out to get a boat. Hearing this, Rihanna says that Arata will have to work for it, to which Arata smiles and thinks how optimistic she is. But he realizes that to live peacefully on this island, he needs to cooperate with Rihanna, and since his body doesn't get injured, he won't die easily, and with his ability to copy skills, he can ask Rihanna to teach him a few things. He plans to live here for the rest of his life, but Rihanna has a different opinion, so he decides to cooperate with her as much as he can. The next morning, Arata wakes up thinking that his forever single self never imagined he'd end up sharing a tent with a girl. Rihanna is already awake and wishes him a good morning, and she notices the dark circles under his eyes, but he brushes it off and decides to wash his face by the river. He steps out of the tent and takes a deep breath and hopes today will go smoothly after everything that happened yesterday. Just then, Luna approaches and greets him cheerfully, but what scares Arata is a beastman who is standing next to Luna and clearly giving off gangsta vibes. When Arata asks who he is, the man responds by asking if Arata is an intruder on the island. Hearing that, poor Arata closes his eyes and starts doubting if today will be peaceful at all. The beastman keeps staring at him, and Arata realizes from just one look that he's incredibly strong. The man finally speaks and introduces himself as Aluga from the tribe of divine beasts. He asks Arata for his name, and after Arata introduces himself, Iluga glances at the tent and asks about the girl charging her magical power inside. He turns to Rihanna and says that if she intends to fight, he'll gladly take her on. But if she doesn't want this, then she should stop because she doesn't stand a chance against him. Hearing this, Rihanna steps out of the tent and Arata is surprised to see someone like Rihanna, who is a top-class 7-star mage, showing that kind of expression that makes him realize just how powerful this beastman really is. Arata cautiously looks at them, but before he can say anything, Luna pushes Iluga and reminds him that he promised not to fight. Iluga admits it, but says they were the ones who started it, to which Luna says it was because of his scary face and tells him about the delicious meal they offered her. Hearing this, Arata thinks that maybe Iluga isn't their enemy after all and asks what business he has here, and the beastman points out that they are standing in his territory, to which Arata quickly apologizes and explains that they have no idea how they even got here and they didn't know whose land this was. Iluga seems to understand since it is impossible for humans to reach the divine land of Arcadia. Hearing this, Arata thinks back to what Rihanna told him and realizes they must be talking about the same place. Iluga tells them to avoid doing anything harmful and stay cautious, because there are demon and dragon tribes on the island who wouldn't hesitate to chase them down. Arata thinks about the dangerous species living here and asks Iluga to tell them more about the island. Iluga scowls but admits that it would be hard for them to get around without any knowledge, so he agrees to bring them a map and disappears just as fast as he arrived. Arata watches him vanish and thinks he's a good guy, while Luna smiles and says Iluga always acts tough, but deep down he's dependable and kind. Suddenly, Rihanna grabs her head and Arata quickly catches her, asking what's wrong, to which she replies that a massive wave of concentrated magic hit her and now her body is trembling. Hearing this, Arata wonders if this is something unique to mages, but it doesn't seem likely that just being around an island inhabitant would leave Rihanna like this. Luna lowers her ears, thinking it's all her fault, but Rihanna strokes her head and tells her it's their fault and it happened because her magic is weak. That cheers Luna up a little, and Rihanna thinks about how Luna never blames others despite having so much power and always takes responsibility. Arata thinks the same and feels respect for her, even though she's younger than him. Just then Iluga returns with the map, but when he sees them already sitting at the table and eating, he gets furious because he spent all that time getting the map, and they're just relaxing and enjoying food. Rihanna offers him to join them, to which Iluga sits down next to Luna, and after tasting the food, he shouts across the island asking why the hell it's so delicious. Seeing this, Arata assumes it must be a beast tribe thing to shout while eating good food. After stuffing themselves to the fullest, Luna and Iluga lie down on the grass like wild boars, while Rihanna and Arata go to the river to wash the dishes. After cleaning the plates, Arata wonders about the relationship between Iluga and Luna. He has noticed that Luna looks like a fox and Iluga looks more like a wolf, so they can be blood relatives, but they act like family. Just then Rihanna thanks Arata, and at first he thinks she's talking about the dishes, but Rihanna explains she meant earlier when Iluga started threatening them and Arata stood up for her. He finally understands what she means, but to him, it was a small misunderstanding since Iluga didn't turn out to be their enemy. But Rihanna never expected someone would stand up for her, so she smiles, and Arata notices a faint blush on her face, which makes his heart race. Then she suggests they should head back to the tent and Arata agrees because he is excited to ask Iluga about this island. Iluga shows him a map of Arcadia and points out the territories of the beastmen that live here and the demons and dragons that live farther away. He says they don't get along well, but since fighting always ends in big losses, they only clash now and then. Elves live in the west, but they rarely leave their territory, though they still run into beasts sometimes. Hearing this, Arata asks if any of the races ever try to get along, but Iluga says no and explains that it's not about survival or peace, but they've lived here so long that they've stopped caring to fight. At first Arata gets afraid of having to face all kinds of powerful monsters, but after hearing this, he feels a bit more relaxed. Then he tells Aluga he wants to live on this island and asks if there's a good place to stay, which shocks Aluga. And he says there's no place here for a weak human to survive. Arata wants to explain about the body that God gave him and how he might manage, but doesn't know how to bring